Hello friends, welcome to Magento tutorials. In this video, we will discuss about the repository interface. So what is a repository and how to create it. So what is a repository? A repository is a type of service contract and design pattern which helps developers to perform CRUD operations including API. That means REST or Web API. In the previous video, we discussed about the factories. Like the factories, we can save the data, update, and delete the records from the particular table. How we can create a repository to perform CRUD operations. Let's get started with creating some files for this repository. You see here, I have prepared all the data files which are required for creating the repository. Okay, so the first file you need to create is the di.xml. What is this di.xml? Di.xml is a dependency injection management. So this file is very helpful for creating any preference, plugins, type, and visual types. Okay, in this video, we will discuss only on the repository. So in the next video, we'll discuss about these preferences, why we need to use it in this di.xml, and what is the importance of it. Okay. For now, just stick to this code. So I have prepared this for the repository. Here for the repository, what I did, I just created one repository interface that is in the API folder, and whatever the interface class I have created in this file, I need to implement that. So where you need to implement that? In the model. So this data repository contains all the implementations which you define in the data repository interface. Okay, so this is what I'm doing with this preference. If you're a fresher, don't worry about all these things. We will discuss in the later tutorials. Okay, so right now just I will enable this one. I'll discuss one by one. Okay, so whatever the interface you're creating here, you have to implement that in the model file. Okay, I will show you how to create the repositories. Okay, if you ask me that do we need these two preferences, yes, we need these two, because I will show you one by one. Okay, okay, this is the data repository interface. If you want to change the name, you can change that. Okay, but whatever the default functions, you have to mention default functions. Okay, in this repository interface. So right now I have added save, get by id, get list, delete, delete by id. Okay, this way we can update the data or delete or save the data to the database. Okay, where we need to implement this interface class, that is in the model data repository file. Okay, open this model data repository, this one. Okay, here you will find all the functions that are defined in the interface class. Okay, save, get by id, get list, delete, delete by id. Okay, so all the implementations you need to do in the model file. Okay, save, get by id, delete, delete by id, get list. Okay, like this. If you have any query on any function, just let me know in the comment section. I will explain each line. Okay, this way we can update the records, delete, save, and get the list of items available in that particular table. Okay, now go to the di.xml again. So this one we have created for saving the data to the database. But how you can set the data? First of all, you need to set the data and then save to the database. Okay, to your database. So here you see this students table which we previously created, right? It contains student ID, student name, student roll number, student status, created, updated, right? So here I want to create a new student information, or I want to update the existing records. We already discussed about the factories in the last video, how we can set the data and save the data to the table. Okay, so the same way we need to set the data and save that data to the database. Okay, so how you can set the data? Using this API data interface and model data file. Okay, I will open this data interface, how it looks. I have created this file because I need to set the data and get the data. So this interface class contains table field information. Okay, okay, you see here student ID, student name, roll number, status, created, updated. So you have to create a separate functions for each field. Okay, for example, student id is one function we need to call, and student name and student roll number, status, created, updated. So all these things we need to create in this interface file. Okay, so we need to set the data and get the data in this interface file. Okay, we don't need to call any save function here. We already created that in the repository file. Okay, this file is just helpful for getting and setting the data, and for saving, updating, and just delete the records. We have this repository interface. This is how Magento works for the repositories. Okay, so this file is helpful only for defining the function. So where to implement this interface class? So that one also we added in this di.xml, that is model data, this one. Okay, this file will help us to implement all the functions that you have defined in this interface file. Okay, so you observe this get student id, set student id, the same functions you need to implement in this model file. Okay, so this is the ready-made code I have created for you. So if you have any queries, or if you don't understand any functions, or you are not getting any output, please let me know in the comment section. I will help you to understand even better. Remember, we only need 4 files. For example, if your manager or your team asking you to create any repositories, so this way you can create a repository. So tell me why we are creating these repositories. Repositories will help us to get the data from the table, or to save, delete, or update the records to a particular table. Okay, so what is the main purpose of creating these repositories? For example, whenever our system is contacting with the third party system, our third party system is contacting us and fetch some information from us. Okay, so at that time what will happen, they will not directly call these models, or any other controllers or helpers. So they will just call this interface class and get the data, or delete, update the records directly using this public function in the interface file. Okay, this is the main purpose of repositories. Just remember, we just only need 4 files. One is repository interface, another one is model data repository, third one is data interface, and the last one is model data. Okay, once again, so we need to create 2 preferences. Okay, one is for setting and getting the data, another is for saving the data to the database. Okay, finally, whenever you want to create data, or update, delete the records from that particular table, you just use the repositories. Magento recommends to use these repositories instead of factories, for saving, for updating the records, deleting, or getting the information from a particular table. Okay, so my recommendation would be, don't go for factories, use these repositories always. Okay, now we will create the data. So don't worry about all these data. So I will provide the GitHub link in the description. You can just go through that and check that code. Okay, now in this controller we will check how to insert the record, how to read, update, delete the records. So how to insert a record using this repository? So we already have created this data repository. You see here, we have added this API data interface. Okay, using this interface class. So using this file, we will get the functions, set the functions. Okay, data model set. So this model contains the set functions, right? So if you want to set the function, call this set function. Okay, so set student name. For now, just pass init dummy data. Okay, set student. So what are the available set functions? Set student id. So you don't need to pass this student id, because it is an auto increment. Okay, this is an entity or a primary key for the table. You don't need to set this function, it will be automatically added whenever you create any records. Okay. Other than the student ID, what are the functions? Set student name, set student roll number, set student status. So forget about this created and updated functions. Okay, you don't need to set this. You just need only the student name, roll number, and status. Set student name, set student roll number, student roll number, set student status. Right? Student status is 1. Okay. Now using this data interface, we just setting the data. So how to save the data? Using this repository class. So whenever you are saving any data, put some try catch there. Okay. This is an exception class. So exception get message will print what is the exact error. So in this try, we will call the save function of this repository. Okay. Save. In the save function, you see this repository class API data repository interface. This one. So this contains the save method. So in this save method, we need to pass this interface. So what is the interface? API data interface. This one we need to pass in this save function. Okay, API data interface. This one we need to pass. Okay, data interface. This data model. We need to pass this one in the save function. Okay. Now let's check that this is saving or not. Let's check the data is inserted in the students table or not. Hello world. Okay. This is coming as blank because we didn't print any save. Okay. Repository save. Check that. Refresh this page. Repository saved. Okay. That means this try executed. Okay. So go to your database. Check your students table. See, this one is saved. Student name test, student roll number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, student status 1. This one only, right? So if you want to check again, yes, I'm changing the student name test 1, 2, 3. Okay. So refresh this page. Onto database, refresh the students table. Okay. If you refresh this, another record will be added because I'm not updating this record. I'm just inserting a new one. Okay. See here, another record added test 1, 2, 3. So this way we can insert the records using the repositories. Now we will go to this select, just comment this insert. This is the function get by ID. So data repository means, so data repository interface, this one. So for getting table information, what are the functions? Either get list or get by ID. You can use that. Okay. So I'm using this get by ID. Based on the ID, I will fetch the data. Get by ID. You need to pass here a particular ID. So right now I have one. Save that in any variable. Save that in any variable. Okay. Now like what we did for the factories, we need to do the same thing for the repositories also. You remember this function get data, right? For getting the table information. Die here. For the just refresh this page. You see here, I'm getting only one record because based on the ID, I'm getting the information. So this is how you can get the information based on the ID. Okay, for example, I'll take two. This data will be changed. Student name test, that is for the first record, right? So now I will fetch the second record. Refresh the page. The student ID 2, student name test 123, test 123. Okay. So this way we can get the table information using the repositories. Okay, clear all these things. Now we will update the records. How to update the record using the repository? For that you need at least one record to load. Repository, get by ID, getting data. So just loading a record with ID 1. Need to save this data. Now let's set this data. Set I want to change the student name to something general. Okay, now let's save this data. So load this repository. So we need to call this repository save function. Inside of it, you need to pass this data. Okay. Okay. So now we need to check that student name is updated with this ID 1 or not. Refresh this page. If see, this is the student ID 1. The student name should change to different. Okay, whatever we have added Webdev Chandra. See, the student name is changed, right? Now let's change the student roll number. Student roll number to okay 6 months. Refresh this page. Students data. See here, student roll number is updated. Okay, this way we can update the records. Now let's delete the records. So how you can delete the records? All this repository interface. Data repository. There is a default method that is delete by ID. You need to call this function. Okay. Delete by ID. You need to pass the ID. So which record we need to delete? So we can try with ID 2. Okay. So this will delete that record. Okay, don't need to do anything, just only this delete by ID function. Okay, this page. So when I refresh the student table, student ID 2 record will be deleted. Okay, refresh. See here, that will be removed. So this way you can delete the records using the repository. In this video, we just seen that how to insert a record, how to select, update and delete the record from the particular table. In the next video, we will discuss about more in detail. Okay. Please support our channel, Webdev Chandra. Thanks for watching.